Welcome to Real News Talk. I'm Zach Lewis, sitting here with Matt Stoker over on video. Unfortunately, we don't have a camera for Matt, so he's going to be a little quiet this episode, but he will be around if I end up flubbing this interview, which does happen sometimes. I am also sitting here with one David Call. David, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Zach.
Yeah.
We're so glad to be here.
And also Jordan Roberts. Jordan, welcome.
Thank you.
So, we're here talking about an event. And it's interesting because the last couple episodes of Real News Talk we've done have been a little bit more... They've been a little bit more of a character study. They're about people. And this one isn't quite that way. But I do want to talk about both of you at some point because I think what you're doing is really engaging. And I want to see where you're coming from. But before we get there, let's talk about this event. I don't want to steal the stage for this. I think you two can say it better than I can. Tell me about what you've got coming up.
Sure. So the Warren Center is celebrating 50 years of serving Dallas communities next year. And we're kicking off that 50-year celebration with our big Art of Music Gala. It's our second year doing this. And headlining this year, we're really excited. Y'all are actually the first people to hear it. Is going to be Vivian Green.
Oh, wow.
So we're also going to feature 3 other artists, musical artists paired with a physical artist. And then afterwards, it will be a big fun dance party with a live auction.
That's fantastic. So, before we get too far into it, you are both co-chairs of this event.
That's
now,
correct.
I was doing a little bit of research about last year's event, and I don't know if this will make it into the actual episode or not, but I wanted to ask about one other individual here.
Yes.
Ben Smithy, is he involved?
He actually came up with the idea for the Art of Music Gala.
Okay.
And I co-chaired with him last year for the first year.
Gotcha.
And so he's in New York, so he's still involved on the music side, but a little bit more not as spearheading as he was last year.
Ben K. All right. Ben with the inception. We'll get back to that.
Yes.
Before we get too far into the event, let's talk about both of you. If it's David, if you don't mind, we'll start with you.
Okay.
I did a little bit of research before the show because every once in a while I do that. You started in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Yes, that's correct.
You moved to Dallas in 93.
Yes.
You started David Call Designs in 95.
David Call Interiors, actually.
Interiors. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Now you're doing David Call Designs?
No, it's
still interiors?
It's the interiors.
Oh, gosh.
Yes. It's the email address versus what the name of the company is because, of course, we couldn't get David Call Interiors because somebody else in some random country has it. So we had to go with David Call Designs.
How'd you get into design work?
Actually, it is a funny accident. I'll try to keep this short, but when I was very young, we were brought up in a very financially strapped type of area. There was no opportunity. Nobody ever went to college. It was that type of story that we've all heard almost from the Roseanne type of TV show sitcom.
It's very Midwest, very Oklahoma. Yeah.
Right. And we lived in a very small town, so we didn't have very much visibility to what possibilities you could have.
Wow.
But early on, I knew that I wanted to be independent. And I graduated high school early. And so what I ended up doing is starting my first company when I was 19. And
Really?
I kept that for 6 years. It
Wow.
was somewhat of getting my budding experience into interior design.
And entrepreneurship.
Right. And so I kept it growing and growing. And then when I landed my feet in Dallas, once I got assimilated into the culture of Dallas, which was a big shock, I ended up working for Neiman Marcus, which got me into meeting the right people for who I now collaborate with on their homes. So essentially, I learned the tools of the trade very early on by really apprenticing under some of the best designers in Tulsa, apprenticing in different areas that were essential to being a good interior designer, such as construction companies, cabinet builders, drapery workrooms, et cetera, et cetera. I got lucky enough to get offered, and I did it for free because I was young and hungry. And so that's kind of how it all started. I wasn't trained traditionally. I didn't go to school. We didn't have the opportunity. But under the wings of all those incredibly talented people, they saw that I had a natural gift. So I've merged the two of those, and now in Dallas since '93, I've been independent for 15 years, and it's just kept going.
I wanted to follow up about natural gift because that's exactly where I was going. Thank you for the brilliant segue. Is design one of those things, you're just born with? Or is it something that can be learned? Is it something you kind of have to have an eye for? Or do you think it's something that's kind of innate? Because I think it's a left brain, right thing. Left brain, right brain thing. I don't think it's for everybody, but I wanted to see what your thoughts were.
Well, you're right. There are some people who are armchair designers and other people who actually want to do it as a business. It's kind of hobby versus business. And really, I think part of it is that my personality and the way that my DNA is built, I have a natural creative flow, also being an Aquarian, possibly. But I think it is more so that you have to have the entrepreneurial drive and the focus and the understanding of how personalities work and being able to work with people on a very, very personal level. That way you can actually work as an effective designer.
You know, I was going to say something along the lines of, like the great T-Pain said, you've got to want it, and then realized at the last second that was terrible and I shouldn't go that way.
Well, you're right, because being an interior designer is about as glamorous as being a fashion model.
Right.
Essentially, it is a lot more work than people think it is, but if you love what you do, the amount of work that it seems like it is dissipates because you love it more than most people would.
Why do you think you were drawn to the idea of creating spaces versus creating, I don't know, something like fashion design or painting? What was it about interior design that really grabbed you?
I think it's the fact that I get to affect people's everyday lives so much more than fashion. And I'm a very tactile planning type person, so it really tied into that side of my personality. My left and my right are integral, so I'm highly, highly organized, such as spreadsheets are my best friend, aside of Jordan. But the creative side is what really gets me excited when I'm working with a client.
You do seem like you know just a lot of people. It seems like you have a very broad network. And moving towards that, I wanted to ask, of course, Jordan Roberts sitting here, how did you two get to know each other?
Actually, through the Warren Center.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it was very interesting that I got brought in very late in the game for last year, and she and Ben had already spearheaded a great deal of it.
Wow.
But her personality is so engaging that we immediately engaged together.
Okay.
So it was terrific because what her vision and what she already knew about what the gala was going to be, I was able to assimilate real fast into it because of her.
Well, Jordan, I know you've got a background at SMU, and I know you were at the Warren Center when David got there. So can you help me fill in those blanks a little bit? Help me walk through how you got from A to B.
Sure. So I did go to SMU, a proud pony. And from there, I worked for a private Swiss bank and in wealth management, which was an amazing experience. And through that, you really do connect a lot in Dallas. I was raised in Dallas. I debuted here, and so my life was here. So I met Ben. Ben invited me to a Warren Center event a couple years ago, and one day calls me up and says, "Hey, Jordan, I had this idea while I was in the shower about pairing a musical artist with a physical artist and doing a big gala presentation. Would you want to be part of the committee?" And I was like, yeah, I could be a committee member. That's not a huge commitment. It's just a small amount of time. Well, about a month later, he calls me and goes, "So I'm moving to New York. Do you mind chairing it?" And I was like, sure.
Why not?
At that point, I could probably at that point not tell you what the Warren Center did. Had no clue what I was getting myself into. And I can honestly say, I think for our whole committee last year, we really did not know fully what we were getting ourselves into. And I remember standing there the night of the event in last February and just being like, oh my gosh, this was everything. Like, we've worked so hard for this. The amount of man hours and people that went to make this night happen was just astonishing. And so it was exciting, but that's how I ended up there, was kind of random circumstances that brought me to the Warren Center. And now I can't imagine it not being part of my life.
Was there ever a point where you started to realize maybe this whole entrepreneurship kind of thing wasn't that crazy? Because it's not for everybody, and it seems like both of you kind of have that in common. You're willing to strike out on your own and kind of make something happen for yourselves, and other people kind of like the safety of working under a bigger umbrella. What do you think about that?
I think it does take a certain type of personality to
Yes.
go out there and start it on your own. It's terrifying. I've started a business. It failed miserably. It was terrifying, humbling, but also some of the best lessons I've ever had. I honestly believe that you learn more from failure than you ever do from success. So, as far as being scared to start something, I think if you're passionate about it or you believe in the cause, you could pretty much do anything. You just got to stay focused, and that's the hardest part, is staying focused, staying driven in it, and not being scared to make asks of friends and family. That's the most awkward part. But everyone wants to see a charity in Dallas succeed. No one wants that not to happen. So I think that's always on your side.
There are a lot of charities in Dallas. There's like a bajillion of them.
Yeah.
How did you two get tangled up specifically in the Warren Center of all places? There's so many things you could contribute to. And the Warren Center is unique because they were founded in 1968. Long time. Like you said, 50th anniversary coming up, which is quite the bar. It's a little high up there, and we'll get to that, out in Richardson, Texas. And specifically, what does the Warren Center work towards? What do they represent? What are they for?
So they help children and families with developmental disorders from 0 to about 5 to 6 years old.
Mm-hmm.
They come in and their therapists work in the home with the child and the family, which is unique. And you're not just dropping your kid off and hoping that they learn something. You get to learn with your child. And each therapy is tailored to the child and whatever their needs are. It could be anything from speech to autism or anything on that spectrum type thing. And I think it's amazing. They serve so many Dallas families. They've served over 20,000 in the past 50 years. Right now they're doing about 900 a month. So, and it doesn't matter if you can afford it or not. If you can't afford it, it's taken care of. That's through events like ours. And I just can't, I'm not a parent, but I can't imagine, you get this beautiful baby and they're not completely normal. Like something's wrong. And I think having that support of the Warren Center to help you get through that time and help your child live a more normal life and get to do things that you were told by your doctors they'll never get to do. Like one of the girls, she was told she'd never be able to walk. She has a cleft foot, and she walked in the fashion show 2 years ago.
Wow.
Because of the Warren Center. I think it's giving people a chance that can't do it themselves.
Yeah, and it's heartwarming. And I mean, all charities in Dallas are heartwarming, of course, but I feel like so many get caught up in the promotion and the publicity that you don't often hear about. Ones like the Warren Center out in Little Richardson, Texas, actually doing something tremendous for 900 families. That's huge.
Yeah.
And something I don't think of when I think of something like that, and maybe it's a far stretch, is a gala, which brings us to last year when you were chairing this. You put on an event called Synesthesia. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to steal the limelight on this one. Tell me about that.
So, as I said, Ben Smithy came up with this idea of pairing a musical artist with a physical artist, and we had a sculpturist, a painter, 2 painters, and a dress designer last year. And then we had some amazing musicians from people that produce for Disney all the time. We had Jamar Jones, who is just fantastic. And then headlighting, we had Jeff Coffin from Dave Matthews Band. And each of them wrote an original piece. And with that piece went an original piece of art. And we auctioned them off. But this idea came out of, he was in the shower. And so
he was in
Ben
the shower.
Smithy was
Ben
in the
Smithy
shower
was in the
when
shower?
he came up with this idea. So
all right, the shower. Some
Yeah.
of the best thinking happens there.
apparently, because it was a major success, I think our crowning moment was when all was said and done, we actually made $60,000, which first-year charities rarely ever even break even. So that was a huge, huge success.
Right. That was tremendous.
Yeah.
David, when we were talking about it last week, I remember you saying I don't want to say you were surprised, but for the first year for a gala to happen, that's huge. I mean, that's a really big thing. How did that feel?
Oh, it was amazing. I've been involved with nonprofits. As you said, there's so many of them.
So many
I've
of
been
them.
on top tiers of the planning of those for years and years. I even basically created one from another nonprofit, and the first year we only made $5,000. The second year we were upside down until I got an angel to give us $20,000, and we made $10,000. So the fact that we made $60,000 the first year is, especially for what a lot of people would think of. The Warren Center has been around for almost 50 years, but it is in a grassroots type location. It's not fancy. It is meant to be there to achieve for the children what the goal is. And that's the same for a lot of the nonprofits, is that they don't have glamorous buildings. But, that's where it was, very surprising that we made that much. But it was because of the fact that the committee put together so many different levels of where the nonprofit could make money last year, and I think that was a big part of where we were able to achieve that. Lots of boots on the ground, and it always takes lots of boots.
Right, and like I said, that was something I kind of wanted to talk about the specifics of, because when I think of the Warren Center, I don't think of a gala. I don't think of something big and fancy. I don't think of bright lights. I don't think of a Grammy-winning saxophonist from the Dave Matthews Band headlining. I don't think of a silent auction. I don't think of a seated dinner. And you guys managed to put all of this on from so few resources. How did you kind of gather that?
Well, I think that was primarily from the group that we had collected. Courtney Edwards is the one who sought me out to come and be the creative director. My background in interior design and also in art, having been an art agent and representative for several years, I was very connected to the art community. So I aligned most of the artists that were given the scores to create their art project, if you will, for this. And that is part of it. All of us have a great amount of experience and connections. So that's where we were able to come together. And when we all get together, about 6 of us, we're a force to be reckoned with, because we start all of our bullets go off at the same time about certain people, and we do collusion meetings periodically where the top core of the committee get together and just start emailing people and calling people, and we start having conversations that turns into this wonderful mushroom crowd, of possible connections to raise money, to get sponsors. That's the biggest thing that we have.
And who were some of your sponsors last year?
So last year, Melody and Rick Rogers were our presenting sponsors, and we were so thankful. And they come back again this year as well with the Moglia Family Foundation on behalf of Joe Moglia and Amy Hireman. We also had Richardson Methodist last year and this year. And Aries Capital and Reichard Insurance are both returning again.
Wow.
So we've had a lot of returning sponsorship, which is really great for us. And then additional new sponsors are coming on this year. We have a huge shout out to Insperity. They're being a huge table sponsor. So it's exciting to see it grow and branch out, because I think for David and I both, we had our friends buy tables and stuff like that, and all of them go, well, I'm going to get a table myself next year. So it kind of spreads that way, and people get excited about that. I also would want to say part of the core reason I think we've been successful is our team really likes to actually spend time together.
Right.
Like, we actually will just go grab dinner and not talk about the gala or anything. Like, we actually are
friendly?
We're like almost friends first, I would say. Like,
okay.
And we just end up working really well. Like, I enjoy all of our meetings. They're not these tedious things. They're fun. We end up having a great time. We've had watch parties at my house where we watch Alice in Wonderland.
Oh, wow.
So it ends up being, we keep energized because of that, I think. So, we're working on 2018 before the gala last year even went off. So you have to keep going and keep running. It's a marathon.
Right. And I think it's incredible that you have that, because I feel like, and as unfortunate as I've talked to so many people that work with nonprofits or charities and do volunteer work primarily, and they're miserable. And you wouldn't think that would be a thing, but volunteer work is just that. It's
I've heard
hard.
about it. Yeah.
So I wanted to ask about last year's theme before we move on, synesthesia, which is the sensation of experiencing two senses at the same time. Usually one in response to another, like you see a color and you hear music, or you taste something and it smells like something else. And I wanted to ask about kind of where that came from. I know you said Ben came up with it in the shower, but just to kind of draw it out a little bit, you had, and I don't know the exact matchup here, so correct me if I'm wrong, at one point you had a Disney composer working with music, and you had like an oil and painting artist painting. You had a metal sculptor working with a fiddler. You had like a jazz musician working with like a wood sculptor. Like all of these different mediums coming together and kind of dancing with each other. And I think it's a really, really, really beautiful idea, especially considering the cause. Was there any kind of organization in that, or was it like just playing a matching game? Like, yeah, we'll throw these two together. It'll be cool. I mean,
all the matching goes to David. I just say with the theme of synesthesia, it's a technique that the Warren Center uses. So that's kind of part of where the idea came from. But all the matching, I'm more on the finance side. I'm that geek. Anything art related, that is all David.
All right, David, what do you have to say for yourself?
Yeah, I guess it's on me. Yes, that's part of the reason that Courtney called me, was because once they had synesthesia, but they needed to develop the event as an all-over gala, and they needed the big parts, however, to make it happen. And she knew that I could connect the artists that I had in my stable, if you will, with the music. And it made it even easier when we were talking to Tim Ishii about the music and the possible scores and the musicians they could use, having ready-made, shall I say, artists readily available that could work with. I'd already done the ask. So it was a matter of, once I heard the musical scores, I then matched it to the artist, because I knew that the artist could create something really wonderful out of that score. So that's how they were paired up.
One of the things I think that's so impressive about your event wasn't just how much you raised in the first year, but yeah, it was the talent you brought in. Last year after the gala, Culture Map of all publications said that you threw the most talented gala in Dallas. Do you think that's true, and what did that feel like?
No, thank you, Amber.
I
love
would
that.
definitely say it was. And, there are some amazing galas out there that have a lot more funding than we do and can get some incredible talent, and that is so much fun and awesome to see. But I will say, for what we had in a first-year event, it was amazing. People were talking about, goosebumps the entire time the program was going on. The talent on stage was just incredible. It was nothing like I've ever seen before, and I have been to pretty much every major event out there, and it was very, very impressive. Huge kudos to Tim Ishii and David for putting that all together. It was amazing.
So moving on to this year, the second annual event, one of the things that really stuck with me, David, last week when we talked, you said the second year of any event is always the hardest. I've never planned an event. Why is that? What does that mean?
Well, for me, not for me, for any event, the first one, if it goes off really, really well, then it's kind of like you've got the follow-up, and you hope that you can do it just as well.
You got to meet that bar. Yeah.
You've got to meet that bar. And that's where we always hope that the sponsors will see the benefit of having been involved, and also the love factor of having been involved, and that they will continue to support us so that we can raise that bar and make it just as good. Part of what we are trying to do also is keep our budget low as much as possible, but keeping it in the same place at the Southside Ballroom. And we're being very successful with that. And now we're just trying to secure more sponsors so we can keep the float of making this as amazing as it was last year. Because it truly was a full band stage, and it was going for an hour and a half or almost 2 hours straight of live bands playing with the music and the art together. So it was quite a sensory experience, which is why it was called synesthesia.
This year it's not called synesthesia, it's called
Wonderland.
Wonderland. Where did that come from?
So I came up with the theme of Wonderland, and I just kind of thought of, we've talked about you want to make the event even better next year. You want to get people engaged. So falling into this wonderland, Alice falls through the hole and ends up in this kind of, I'm going to take this from Stranger Things, but upside down world type of idea. And that's what I kind of thought would be so cool, because it's going back to the childhood. It kind of draws on those strings of what these kids are going through right now and this amazement with the world. And I think, everyone that's coming to the event has their real world stuff, and leave it at the door, come in and experience some great music, fall in love with Wonderland, and enjoy that space and that time that you get away. And so that's kind of where the idea came from. I also thought I'm a decor fashion somewhat minded person. I thought the decor would be really cool. It'd be engaging, it'd get everyone involved. So that's where the idea of Wonderland came from. And we wanted to do a different theme each year to get people excited for it. So
I know you said Ben came up with synesthesia when he was in the shower.
Yes.
Did you know when you came up with Wonderland? Was it like you thought of it and thought, that's it? That's got to be it? Or was it like, let me run it by everybody and see
Jordan and I were actually together when she came up with it, and we were
really?
batting ideas of titles back and forth. We were really excited. Okay, what about this one? No, that just sends the wrong message. We were going after what perhaps themes of what have been done before, but with a different name, a different type of the way we could create off of a different name of a similar theme. And that's when she popped up with Wonderland, and then we came up with, I believe, seeing the world through a child's eyes.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what the Wonderland is being able to see the world through their eyes. And we're going to try to create this event as if we're seeing it through their eyes. So it hopefully will be the Winter Wonderland, or Alice in Wonderland, through the kids' eyes, not through ours.
One of the most spectacular things about any event is how so many people that go to it, that usually don't know any better, in their defense, usually just kind of think, oh, well, this is cool. It's one night out of my life. That's it. Planning these things takes a lot longer. Mm-hmm. How long did it take you to plan last year's event, and how has that process changed for this year? Is it 6 months, a year?
Over a year.
Over
for
a year.
Last year's event was almost 2 years.
Oh, my gosh.
Especially for when you're doing the first, it takes much longer because there's all the development, the strategies, the getting the group together, the committee together is that's hard to assimilate.
Right. You've got to draw those blueprints.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this year, of course, we started, as Jordan did mention, we were already talking about it before the gala even started last year. We were already formulating ideas, and then we hit the ground running the next week, I believe.
Yeah. There was no downtime.
No.
No, and I think it shows. Yeah, clearly the work you put into it is reflected in the results. What can people expect at this year's event that might be different from last year? I mean, or better yet, say I've never gone and I want to go. Are we going to get people in costumes? Is it going to be kind of low key? Is there a seated dinner like last year, silent auction? What? Give me a little tease here.
Yeah.
Definitely expect, if you went last year, more than that. If you've never been, we are thinking probably we'll have people in costume. We're thinking like the big flowers, all of that, the teapots and
Themed
cups and all that,
interior.
the themed interior.
Playing cards.
But also know that there's a silent auction table. So, we've had some amazing donors give some stuff up to that. So get excited. Be ready to buy some good art. And then this year we are only doing 4 artists. And we're actually going to have a big surprise at the end that's going to be a unique change from last year.
Oh, wow.
So we're really excited about that. It's going to be a little bit shorter of a program. You learn things when you do it one time. It went a little too long last year, so we're cutting it back a little bit. It will include the live auction of the pieces and the music. And then additionally, there's going to be a big after party, dance party. So, where you're comfortable, or bring some flats in your clutch, because get ready to dance afterwards. We have an awesome band and everything. So it's going to be a little bit different than last year, but still seated dinner, still the auction.
That's fantastic. I know last year you guys hit $60,000, which is incredible. I'm curious, what was your goal then, and do you have one now?
Our goal was to just not lose money last year.
Right.
Indeed.
To get a decent article out in the next morning.
Yeah,
sure.
we were hoping for that too. That's the B12 shot we needed.
Right.
We got in a lot of our, I'll be completely blunt about everything. About 2 weeks before the gala, we were still like, we need more money. Like, this is just not like enough. Like,
Oh my gosh.
we're in the red. And we had amazing people pull out last minute. And
I think that's when Toyota of Irving
came in.
Yeah, that was a relationship I developed with one of my clients who I do hope, if David and Diana, you're listening, that you will come to us again this year.
Come on, David and Di.
Yeah. So, that last couple minutes, we were like, oh my gosh, we might lose money. For this year, we learned a lot of lessons. So we started we started the table sales way early on. So we've secured a good amount of funding. We still need a heavy amount more. But those are lessons you learn along the way. And it's nice when you can like show a video of the gala and you actually know what it looks like. Because the first year, we're trying to explain it, but we don't even know what it's going to turn out like. So this year, we're very hopeful to raise even more money because the Warren Center really needs it. The state of Texas has cut funding to them, and insurance is all over the place, as everyone knows.
Indeed.
So there's families that really, really need what the Warren Center does, and they really need the funding.
So to bring us full circle, say somebody hears this and they're interested. When's the event? How can they get involved?
Sure. The event itself is February 10th. It's going to be at the Southside Ballroom. And the time probably going to be about 6 p.m. The tickets are $250 on up. Tables start at $2,500, and also sponsorships are available.
And it can all be found on the Warren Center's website. They have a link to our gala on there. And also, if it's posted today or tomorrow, tomorrow night at Zaza, we're having a kickoff party. David and I have a big surprise for everyone that does attend, and it starts at 6, and we're welcoming anyone that's interested to learn about what the Warren Center does as well. If they're interested in becoming a sponsor or looking at getting a table, that will all be available to them at Zaza.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, and Hotel Zaza, for those who aren't familiar, is on Leonard Street. It's very close. It's on McKinney Avenue, and it's very close to Maple Avenue. And so that will be something that won't want to be missed if you can. This is for people who want to see and be more involved. As you mentioned, Zach, people, if they want to be involved, please come.
Sure. And they should, because again, it really is an incredible cause. I feel like that's said so often in interviews about local charities, but I mean it this time, I swear. I wanted to ask about... I love this as a podcast because I totally just lost my train of thought.
Oh, and by the way,
idea. Go ahead.
For
Sorry.
the Hotel Zaza, this is not a cost event. This is a fundraising evening tomorrow night. So there is no cost.
Wow.
Zaza was kind enough to donate their
Yes.
ballroom and everything. They're amazing sponsors to us, so we really appreciate
yes.
it.
And before we go, I want to, you two, of course, make this possible, but I also want to give another plug to the sponsors that make this possible. So please, who will be sponsoring this year?
Once again, huge thank you to our presenting sponsors, the Moglia Family Foundation on behalf of Joe Moglia and Amy Hireman, Melody and Rick Rogers, again, being a presenting sponsor is awesome. Also, Richardson Methodist, Aries Capital, and Insperity. We really appreciate everything they're doing for us.
And we also thank in advance all of those sponsors who we're hoping are going to come and join them.
Of course. And anybody who can make the event. Should
Yeah.
come out.
Oh,
have a good
yes.
time.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes.
Well, Jordan, David, where can people find out more about you, about the two of you? Yeah, where can people find out what you've got going on?
Well, you can go to warrencenter.org to find out about this event.
Of course.
You can go to, you can find me anywhere on social media. David Call, last name spelled Call, primarily davidcalldesigns.com is my website. And then also, I just so happen to have opened up a new art gallery in Frisco.
Oh, wow.
Where I'm opening up David Call Interiors Frisco branch within the gallery. And it is an incredible resource for the old downtown area, keeping the charm but adding a new life to it. And so that is at friscofineart.com. So that is a new business venture that I've gotten involved in with my business partner, Randy Jacobs.
Well, congrats, David. That's tremendous.
So all of this is very unique to my rise, shall we say, in business, in that I'm really hoping that my company, both of them, can help with the Warren Center. And that's what we're hoping to do. That's why having this brevity allows us to have the influence.
Fantastic. Well, yeah, congrats. And Jordan, where can people find out more about you?
So Jordan Roberts on Facebook. I'm a white girl. I tend to post most things on Instagram. So Jordan S. Roberts 08. If anyone really wants to follow my Instagram, probably the two best ways to find stuff about me.
Again, please check out the warrencenter.org and check out Wonderland on February 10th. It's going to be a blast. David, Jordan, thank you so much for sitting down with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So what time did you get here? Disregard this.
Probably.
I usually roll tape as soon as people kind of sit down, and then we just cut it up. It's a brilliance of editing.
Yeah, so I probably got here at like 1:45-ish.
Oh my God, have you been sitting out there this whole time?
No, I was answering emails downstairs for a second and had a phone call from someone.
That doesn't make me feel much better, but I appreciate it. David,
No.
hey, come on in. Good to see you. How are you?
Good.
I swear we're just practicing.
I'm
We're
so
not.
good.
Yeah. Disregard all this.